Business Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon. Mannin Line today is with the Chamber of Commerce. If you're familiar with the Chamber of Commerce, you probably scrub around the next 10 minutes because you'll know all about it. But I'm hazarding a guess that majority of the Isle of Man doesn't know much about the Chamber of Commerce, what it does, what it aims to do, and its opinion on the situation that we find ourselves in. President Clare Watterson is with us, and board member Chris Corlett. And it's Chamber of Commerce with you for the next hour. So, Faster My, good afternoon. Chris Corlett, Faster My. Chris, hi.
Hi, Andy.
And also to Clare Watterson, President of the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce. Good to have you along.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Okay, Chris Corlett, the Chamber of Commerce, in the last, it has to be said, in the last report, fairly heavy-hitting and fairly critical of government. Am I right?
I think it's fair to say that the Isle of Man economy is hitting a tough patch. We've had several years of recession, and we need to be honest about that. We can only fix what we admit is broken. So we've looked at the statistics, we've worked with our members. It's worth saying to start that Chamber of Commerce represents hundreds of local businesses, who in turn employ about 2/3 of the private sector workforce on the island. So we talk to our members daily, and we have a pretty good insight into the state of the economy in most sectors. And we've run surveys, we've run working groups, and we've looked at government statistics as well, to ensure that we have the most thorough understanding of the economy we can, so we can help articulate how we can make it better. And we've got a great track record of working with government to deliver economic growth. So if we looked at the figures recently, and the national income statistics are very important. People might have heard the term GDP, or gross domestic product. That's a measure of the size of your economy. So the most recent data government has published takes us up to 31st of March 2024. So quite old, but still, that's the latest data. That showed in the 2-year period to that point, we'd had a recession of 7.4% of GDP. To put that into perspective, the UK banking crisis, the UK's worst crisis in living memory, was 6.5%, so worse than the UK banking crisis. And people may say, well, GDP, does that relate to me? How does that affect me? Well, GDP is basically profits plus wages. So the profits that businesses make and the wages that we as individuals earn. And both have fallen in real terms. And if we look at since that point, since 31st of March 2024, how have we fared as an economy? Well, we have the jobs data to look at. If we look at the jobs data up to 31st of December of last year, we lost a further 1,000 jobs in our export sectors. Now, those are the sectors that generate our growth, that cause our economy to grow. This is financial services, first and foremost, and also specialist manufacturing, and also e-gaming, and also wider technology and tourism. These bring money from overseas to our island that enables our economy to grow. So where they lead, the rest of the economy will follow. So if they've shed 1,000 jobs, that inevitably impacts the rest of the economy. So we then have private sector data from an organisation called Island.Jobs, which analyses job vacancy data. Their latest data for the year in the Isle of Man 2026 shows we've lost 1 in 3 job vacancies for young people compared to last year. So think of that as 1 in 3 jobs for our young people. Those opportunities have gone. And for professional jobs, it's worse than that. It's about 1 in 2. 1 in 2 job vacancies gone compared to last year. So we can see that trajectory downwards has continued. Now, we don't have the latest GDP stats, and nor will we for some time, but there's enough hard evidence combined with the responses from our members, and our members are voicing their deep concerns about economic growth in a wide range of sectors. Certain sectors are growing, but many are not. And it affects all of us. When we see e-gaming contract and financial services contract and jobs going, many of those people leave the island and take their spending power with them. And so we talk to retailers, restaurants, cafes, who said they can see directly their revenues falling and impacting them. So we need to be honest about that, because we can only fix what we accept it needs fixing.
Chris, you put all the numbers in, you gathered all the numbers. And when you came to the end of that process, when you came to the conclusion, did you believe what you saw?
Oh, absolutely. And that is, I say we've used all of those different data points to cross-validate each other.
It's not a pretty picture, is it?
It's not a pretty picture, but only by having an honest assessment, as I say, can we improve things. And I may sound a bit like the voice of doom, but as I say, you've got to be honest with where you are now. And I'm immensely optimistic that we can address that. The Isle of Man has had many peaks and troughs over its hundreds of years, and we've consistently pulled together to deliver new economic opportunities. We created a banking industry from nothing, we created an insurance industry from nothing, we created e-gaming from nothing, and other specialist sectors. When we pulled together as one community, and when government listened to the private sector, and where it created legislation, regulation, taxation, and other advantages that allowed us to go out into the world, win business, and grow our economy. That's exactly what we now need to do again.
OK, Clare Watterson, President of the Chamber of Commerce. What's your view, Clare?
I have to say, having reviewed similar data to Chris, I'm of the same opinion. Our members are feeding back that they're having problems at the moment with things like fragmented messaging, our regulatory friction, a slow decision making, and no ownership of strategies. So over the last number of years, the government and the private business relationships have slowed. We are finding that the conversations between the two are more difficult than they used to be. When Chris was referring to our economy reinventing itself on a number of occasions, that was all done on government and private business partnerships. So when we worked together, when the private sector came to government with an idea, and the government then were able to facilitate that idea, put a framework around it to enable that business to get off the ground and flourish. Those are the conversations that we've been lacking. They're the ones that we are struggling to have at the moment, and that's what's going to need to change in the next couple of years so that we can turn around and say that the Isle of Man is open for business, that we're in a position to support our expert businesses over here. We have a large number of businesses who are specialists in their different sectors, very well established and doing very well, but these are businesses that can grow and they need that support. And again, we then need to be looking at what's coming down the line of how we can attract new types of business to the island and have that flourish here like we have done before. OK,
4 weeks on Thursday, there's a general election. There will be 24 new, some nearly new, some brand new members of the House of Keys. If you could speak into every one of their ears, what would you say? That they have a very tough job coming to them. They need to be willing to accept that not all of the expertise sits in government, and that these public-private partnerships are going to be what's going to move the Isle of Man economy and allow it to flourish so that we can get back on our feet and provide the level of services that our population now expects. OK, Chris Corlett, when we're talking about kind of regulatory slowdown and friction and this, that, and the, you've worked inside government. You know how slow the government can be. How can that be moved backwards? How can it be moved back to the times when government and private business were almost hand in hand? Yes, I think it is understanding that context. We don't talk a lot about the economy as a community. We don't publish an awful lot of economic data. So I think there's many people don't appreciate quite how challenging the economy has been in recent years. So we hear people talk about a cost of living crisis because they feel costs have gone up too much. Well, actually, the problem hasn't been costs rising, because they always do. We don't control inflation. But it's because income hasn't been rising faster than inflation. So if we look at, say, last year's earnings survey, that showed private sector earnings fell by 4%. That's why people feel there's a cost of living index, because their earnings aren't rising, because the economy isn't growing. People worry about public spending and saying we're struggling to fund good public spending. Well, the problem isn't generating, isn't the taxes we're generating. We're not generating the economic growth to generate more
taxes. That's what we had in that wonderful period you referred to, Andy. We had 35 years of unbroken economic growth, averaging over 5% a year in real terms. So we saw better jobs for our people, we saw more income for government, we saw better public services, and it got better and better and better. So we've shown we can do it. We need to do it again. We need to be hungry for economic growth. Government, I think, has had many, many concerns, many, many issues it needs to deal with, and I think has taken its eye off the economic ball. I think we need politicians who understand that if they want to help their constituents, the best way they can do that is to drive for economic growth hand in hand with the private sector. We need a sense of urgency, and we need a sense of understanding that we need to take informed risk if we were to do that. You can't sit back on your hands and hope for the best. We have to take imaginative steps forward.
Okay, it's worth reiterating that it was 1984 when there were 2,000 people out of work.
Yeah, exactly.
And we had £1 million in the coffers, and we were meeting welfare benefits month to month out of the coffers. And suddenly, whether it was obviously Sir Miles became Chief Minister, there was a whole new raft of politicians came in.
Yes.
And then all the revenue came to build the new hospital, to build the new power station, to build the energy from waste plant, to put in the gas connector, to put in the electricity connector as well.
You're absolutely right, Andy.
And all that money. So do you think politicians nowadays are frightened of telling people the bad news?
I wouldn't wish to comment on that. That's for politicians to answer rather than me. I think we need an informed public making an informed choice this election, and candidates who understand the urgency for economic growth. And then we can happily work with them. That's exactly what we had. You were exactly right, Andy. Those early 1980s, the people who were there who got elected knew how grim the state of the economy was.
We had our backs to the wall, Chris.
And they weren't experts in banking, and they weren't experts in insurance, but they listened to people in the private sector who were, and they said, what do you need to grow? And then we said, well, this is the legislation, regulation, taxation and other incentives we need to help our businesses grow. And so they listened, for example, and put in place the depositors compensation scheme. So if you will, that was putting taxpayers' money at risk to guarantee the deposits of private banks. But people wouldn't have put their savings here if we hadn't had that. They did the same with the policyholders compensation scheme for life insurance, and that has paid us back many fold in thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions in taxes. And those were informed risks that delivered very real growth. And we now need ambitious people who are going to stand in and get elected to Tynwald who are prepared to do the same again.
Okay. Clare Watterson, I think you've got something like, is it 450 members of Chamber at the moment?
We've got over 400 members,
okay,
which represents probably about 2/3 of the working population in the private sector.
And the important thing to say is this isn't just huge blue chip organisations, startups, SMEs, all sorts.
We have across the sectors, so we have everything from your small one-man band startups right up to your big corporates. We have members throughout every sector on the Isle of Man, including the third sector as well.
Okay, so what does a small startup get by joining Chamber? What sort of what do they get? What tangible benefits?
They get a voice. So our members are welcome at any table. So we have probably about a dozen forums ongoing at the moment in each, whether they are sector-based like our financial and professional services forum, or whether they are overarching sectors, whether that is skills or well-being. Our membership and the employees from our members are welcome at those tables to contribute their opinions, their thoughts and how they see these things changing. We have members that are actively looking at the problems and the challenges that are coming through in those sectors, identifying them, working with their contemporaries to identify how these can be solved, what regulation and legislation needs to be considered, moved out of the way, talking to and working with government to say this is going to be a challenge for our sector, this is how we feel it can be solved, and trying to move those things forward and those road blockages.
Okay, so what part of government hasn't been listening then? Is it the civil service? Is it the elected representatives? Where's been the roadblock?
I think that's a very difficult question.
Because the public will say, you're saying this, and then you're talking about 1,000 jobs lost, 7.4% recession. Something's gone wrong somewhere.
it's those conversation breakdowns, I think, is what we feel. We used to have a government and a regulator that we could approach with ideas that we could bring our concerns and problems to and have them discussed openly. Due to various reasons, they are more concentrating inwards recently, and there hasn't been those opportunities. We have rested on our laurels over the last number of years. We have seen that things have been very good, and we have sort of taken a step back.
Did COVID get in the way?
COVID certainly got in the way. That everybody's eye was taken off the ball, whether that was in private business or whether that was in governance. That was an unprecedented period for all Manx businesses. However, as an island, we, I suppose, did COVID well. Our businesses suffered minimal disruptions with the minimal shutdowns, and we were able to keep the wheels turning. However, obviously, attracting that new business, that tourism, that input of income to the island during that period was difficult, as it was elsewhere.
Okay, Chris Corlett, just when you talk about attracting business and people to the Isle of Man, yes, and what's come up particularly in this run-up to the election is housing and the affordability of housing, because you can get as many people to come to the Isle of Man for jobs and to start businesses, but if their employees can't live and can't afford to rent a house or buy a house, what's in the way there?
Yes. Well, I think there's quite a lot of house building currently underway, which will hopefully help alleviate that. Our house building tends to be a bit peaks and troughs, so when a new housing estate comes on stream, that can make a massive difference. I mean, really, that has been one of the limiting factors is the availability of good new housing. So talking to the estate agents who are our members, they say it has been mainly because there's been a very limited stock of properties available, which has artificially inflated prices. And so we do need to see more building, and more building is now taking place. So hopefully that will help to alleviate it. But the main reason people come and stay is because there are good jobs paying them good salaries that give them a good lifestyle. We've done that. We've attracted people from all over the world who've brought their businesses here, who've brought their skills here, and who've been critical to growing our economy. Many of the most successful businesses here were founded by people from all over the world, from Norway to South Africa, from the US to the Philippines, and we've been very good at attracting entrepreneurs and skilled workers who've made a massive contribution to our community.
Okay, in terms of tax, then, what's the Chamber's opinion of tax on the Isle of Man? And obviously, bringing people to the Isle of Man, it's a low tax jurisdiction. Yes. But when I'll go back to housing again, when people look at housing, they think this is the southeast of England. Mm-hmm. When they look at housing, so people have to make decisions about when, because businesses are fine and that's great, but bringing people over here, getting housing is important, and recruiting as well. So yes, we come back to the vexed question, and this is immigration to the Isle of Man. Yes. What does Chamber think about immigration?
We've always required a skilled population. We are an island, so we have attracted. I mean, when Chris was talking about the 80s, we had to bring in the skill sets to facilitate the banking industry, the TCSP industry, the e-gaming industry. However, that has then brought those skills, that training, into our local population and increased the knowledge and the skill base of our local population, which has allowed them then to take jobs, very well paying jobs in these industries. So this has brought it back into our local. So we have built on those industries, and what we're looking to say is we've got that skill base, we've got those businesses on the Isle of Man. We need to be helping them grow. So if we can assist them in growing the size of each of their businesses, they've got the skill base, they have the infrastructure already on island to facilitate that growth. What we need to be doing is enabling each of those businesses to grow. That doesn't necessarily mean that they need extra staff and that they need to be bringing in extra staff. It needs to be, we are bringing in the extra work for their existing staff to do. Right. So that we are then increasing the amount of money coming into the Isle of Man. There will be businesses that we do need to bring in skilled staff for. There will be sectors that are coming down the line that we don't have the skill base on the island to do and to cover. So we will always need to do that, but we need to make sure that they are coming in the right sectors for the right jobs.
Okay. When you talk about help from government, can you, on a practical basis, typically, what would government need to do to help people to make their businesses more successful and bigger?
I think listening is the key. The experts sit in those private businesses. They are the ones who formed those businesses, they are the ones that have grown those businesses, and they are the ones attracting that business to the island. So what we need to do is facilitate those open roundtable conversations with the prominent people in those sectors to say, OK, how do we get you a bigger piece of the pie? Because by getting a bigger piece of the pie, our income pot as the Isle of Man grows. And if there is more money coming into the public purse, we are able to then spend that on the infrastructure that our public is wanting.
OK, and that's the nub of it all, because at the moment when you hear candidates talking about what they want to do when they get into Keys, it is things like social services, help people, Manx Care, of course, which is running away with $500 million a year, which is never going to go away. So a lot of the candidates talk about spending money, but very few of them talk about business and what to do to. And it's almost as though some of the candidates don't quite understand about the cart and the horse and which needs to go first, Chris Corlett.
I think that's understandable to some degree. As I mentioned earlier, we don't talk a lot about the economy in our national discourse. We don't talk anywhere near enough about it. And the economy we have now is really very diverse and very sophisticated. We're providing niche financial and professional services to some of the wealthiest people in the world and big businesses. We've got specialist engineering. We've got some of the world's leading e-gaming companies. We've created a very successful, diverse economy. But as a result, many people in the street don't know what these businesses do. And why would they? They're not directly benefiting. But they are indirectly benefiting through the jobs and through the taxes and through the spend in the economy. And so, say, e-gaming, for example, generated I think it was 1,600 jobs at peak, tens of millions of investment into our economy. We've got a much better telecoms and IT infrastructure as a direct result, because they put tens of millions into that, which is helping us win other new business. And so it is very real for us, but it doesn't always feel obvious. And so what we're saying is, please, to the new MHKs, please listen to us. We'll help you understand that complex economy. We'll help you understand what that economy needs to grow, that will then generate the jobs and the better quality of life for the people of the Isle of Man, and generate the revenue that you need for public spending.
OK, a note in from David, who just said Chris talked about the depositors' compensation scheme. Was it banks that funded that, or was that government?
Well, government ultimately acts as the backstop for that.
Okay.
So the banks do contribute towards it, but we're ultimately the backstop for that.
OK, and Reg said, talking about government and things government can do, Reg doesn't mince his word, and just said the government were the ones who mucked up air traffic control, didn't have enough air traffic controllers, consequently half the time he couldn't get a flight back from London. How on earth can business have something that's stable if the airport doesn't have enough air traffic controllers and isn't open for business?
It's a good point. Air and sea links are essential to our community, to attract the kind of high net worth residents we want who will invest here, to attract the kind of skilled workers we want. They have to know there are good connections that they can rely upon day in, day out.
You must have heard from businesses who couldn't get clients over,
yes,
or couldn't get staff over, yes, because they were sitting at the Travel Lodge in Gatwick the night before, Clare Watterson.
Yes, we hear that regularly, and unfortunately that is one of the problems with living on the island. We have a small population, and if we can't utilise the flights and the connectivity, again, we do lose out on business. But again, as business on the island and bringing clients over, we have to utilise those routes to make them financially viable for people to provide them. We can't expect businesses who are themselves like EasyJet and Loganair to be flying empty planes backwards and forwards. So those routes, we need to utilise them to ensure that they are going to be stable and that they are going to be with us for the long term.
OK, well, of course, at the moment, EasyJet's just been sold, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen when that hedge fund in America does with that. and you'll remember, Chris Corlett, years ago when there were 25 flights a day, 15 different destinations that go here, there and everywhere. And now, and I suppose that's symptomatic of what's happened to the economy. It's slowed down, but only the people involved in it have noticed it that closely.
Absolutely. And what people may not appreciate is it's the combined impact of, say, tourism and business visitors, and having an affluent population who can afford to travel creates sufficient demand for the flights and for the sea travel. And there reaches a point where you go beneath critical mass, the insufficient numbers of passengers, as the airlines just say, I can't afford to run that route anymore. And it becomes a self-perpetuating thing. The fewer routes there are, the harder it is for people to travel. The less people travel, the fewer tourists we attract, and so that those air and sea connections are absolutely vital to the future of our island.
Okay, we're with Chris Corlett and Clare Watterson from the IOM Chamber of Commerce. I've got some messages and phone calls to get to in a moment, but just looking through, forgive me if I'm oversimplifying this, Chris, but weak growth equals fewer jobs, difficulty retaining young people, skill shortages, businesses not investing, tax revenues and public finances come under pressure, government's got less capacity to invest in infrastructure, the island becomes less attractive, and that's weaker growth.
That's exactly right.
Perfect.
Okay, well, if you've got any thoughts on this, then by all means do get in touch. Text, email, call and WhatsApp.
It's hot, it's here. It's the Lifestyle Furniture Summer Sale. Enjoy sensational special offers throughout our stunning showroom. Save on our most beautiful beds, sumptuous sofas, living and dining furniture and so much more. Plus there's 20% off art and accessories. And don't forget to visit our brand new garden furniture marquee for truly great outdoors. The Lifestyle Furniture Summer Sale. Now on at Snugborough Trading Estate, Union Mills. It's everything your home's been waiting for.
Got a Saniflow making strange noises? Call Sam at Redmond Services, the Isle of Man's approved Saniflow specialist for repairs, servicing and installations. Remember, Saniflow? Think Samiflow. redmondservices.co.uk.
The Granite Centre in Laxey. For complete kitchen renovations, replacement worktops, and with over 35 distinct styles and finishes, there's a Kuka instant boiling water tap for every home. Call 612287 or visit thelaxeykitchencode.im today.
Check out the Groudle Glen Railway summer timetable for some great days out. Visit the Clifftop Tea Rooms and Sales Emporium, book a special steamed tea and join our free family train spotting challenge. Hop on the line that goes uphill to the sea, the Groudle Glen Railway. For times, see ggr.org.uk or visit on Facebook.
The previous message was brought to you by QVH, the island's premier serviced offices and co-working space in the heart of Douglas. Call 639 940 for more information or visit qvhpremierofficespace.com.
In the run-up to the House of Keys general election on Thursday the 24th of September, we want to give you as much information as possible about who's standing in your constituency to help you decide who to vote for. So, starting on Monday the 31st of August, we'll be hosting our live constituency debate programmes at Studio One. Every candidate standing will be invited to take part, and you could be a member of the audience. Head over to Manx Radio's election mini-site to find the date of your constituency debate and apply for your free ticket. You can find all the details at manxradio.com.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Clare Watterson is here and Chris Corlett from the IOM Chamber of Commerce. And Julian, hello, you're live with the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, hi, Andy, and hello to your guests.
Hi, Julian.
Good afternoon.
Hiya. I'm just concerned about the relationship between the Chamber of Commerce and Ørsted. I noticed in February of 24, the Chamber of Commerce organised an offshore wind event at the Claremont. In April of 25, you held a must-attend session for More Vannin at Hillary House. You did another one, a round table on the economic benefits in December last year. And in May this year, Ørsted sponsored the Chamber's 70th anniversary gala dinner at the Peel Cathedral. Do you find that this might not be appropriate for the Chamber to be kind of getting this cosy relationship with Ørsted, especially when the MHKs don't seem to be privy to the same kind of access to what exactly is the business deal with More Vannin and if it's even good for the island?
Okay, Clare Watterson.
Thank you, Andy. I'd like to say initially that this is a massive... Whether we see it as an opportunity or not for the Isle of Man, it is a massive topic. and it is something that I think everybody on the island will have an opinion on. So our view is that our members need access to that information, which can only be provided by Ørsted. So what we are doing is facilitating that ability for our members to interact with Ørsted and hear from them on what is coming forward. As Chamber, we don't either support it or we're not against it. So we are taking a very neutral position. It's not up to us whether it happens or not. However, what we do need to do is to make sure that everybody possible can see the benefits and the drawbacks of this. So therefore, we will facilitate events that allow this information to be dispersed, and then it's up to members and the public, and obviously the MHKs themselves, about how that information falls and what happens with this.
Did you learn something that you didn't know before when Ørsted presented?
The benefits that they say that are going to be coming on the Isle of Man, the training opportunities and the investment in the Isle of Man. They do have a programme for this, and should it go ahead, or should it be decided whether it's going ahead, that could see benefits coming into the island.
Okay, Chris Corlett.
Just the same points as Claire's made. Our members are very curious about Ørsted, want to understand the potential economic benefits. Ørsted wanted to engage with the business community to help them understand, and that's what we do. We facilitate that kind of dialogue with many different businesses.
Okay, final word, Julian.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know, did Ørsted have any counter people there that were asking questions like, how much is it going to cost for us to wire the cable in from the Groudle to Douglas? How much is it going to cost to get all these synchronous, get it connected into the island so that it works with our grid? The destruction of the fisheries business, the tourism, people's house prices. Did you have like an independent counter at all these soirees that you had with Ørsted to sort of temper it's going to be great? And you see what I mean? Did you have a separate person there or whatever that actually kind of gave us a more realistic take on it rather than just the rose-tinted glasses?
But what I would say is our business leaders, as we say, go from single-person businesses through to large corporates. They're hard-headed men and women who take a very honest assessment of everything. They're not being led up the garden path by any individual business. They wanted an opportunity to talk directly, and they did ask full, fair, frank questions to Ørsted, and Ørsted had the opportunity to answer. So I think everybody's entitled to make their own view, as Claire rightly said. We wanted to act as a facilitator to help engage that dialogue. So our business leaders, who, as I say, they're run some very successful businesses and know what they're talking about, could ask questions directly to Ørsted, and they could make the best, most informed view that they can. So yes, I absolutely do think we gave everybody ample opportunity to ask questions and gather information.
Okay, thank you, Julian. There's a message in from 660 who just said, what's Chamber's view of everybody buying stuff on Amazon all the time? Chris Corlett. Internet purchases.
Yes, well, I mean, it is a factor of modern life, isn't it? So if we have a strong local economy with people with good spending power, yes, some of it will be spent on Amazon online, but it is vital to ensuring that we have a local retail sector, a local hospitality sector, and that people spend locally as well. So we cannot magic away the digital economy. What we can do is try and make sure that we make the best advantages of it by helping local businesses use that to sell their products and services worldwide. I mean, the Isle of Man Creamery, for example, has done a wonderful job of taking local products and exporting them to the world, where the USA, for example, is one of its biggest export markets. Many people might not know that. So they've used the power of the internet to sell Manx products on the global stage. So we need to help local businesses do that as much as possible, rather than hope Amazon might go away.
Well, it's a theme that's common in the Western world. Amazon internet purchases have taken a big slice out of high streets here, there and everywhere. I was talking to somebody yesterday who'd actually just come from a cookware shop, shall we say, in Douglas, who said that he was sick and tired of buying stuff off the internet because 2/3 of it came back the wrong size, the wrong colour and what have you. Yes. So was willing to pay a little bit more just so they could touch and feel and look at exactly what they were buying.
Absolutely.
So, and the Isle of Man's always had lots of entrepreneurs and niche shops and family shops and what have you. So maybe do you think sometimes people are a bit too quick to shop online rather than walking up and down Parliament Street or Station Road or Michael Street or Strand Street and Duke Street.
Absolutely. And we need to encourage people to get out there and enjoy what retail and hospitality we have. I mean, many people would see going shopping, it's not just to buy things, it's to see friends, it's to have a coffee as well. And so we need to actively encourage people to use local businesses or lose local businesses.
Okay, David's with us now. Hi David, you're live with the Chamber of Commerce. We'll find David, and I think he's on blighted line 2 again. Here's a one that just says you were working with DES. There. Do you work with the DESC and DOE to introduce and promote T levels to develop and upskill young people? What's a T level, Clare Watterson?
My understanding of T levels are where we're looking at apprenticeship degrees across the island. So UCM has been, I believe that UCM, we do have a good relationship with UCM. We have members of our board who work closely with them. Have been looking at new ways to bring secondary education to the island. So as you'll see from recent statistics coming out, there is a significant decrease in graduate placements. A lot of the universities are looking at how they are going to, what form they are going to take moving forward, particularly with the advent of AI and how that traditional education has a place in the future. So what we need to be considering on the island is our education structure. Is that sufficient for what we're looking to produce on the Isle of Man? Does that mean that we are turning out candidates from school who are able to step onto a global stage, and are we able to provide them with the education and the experience that they need to be employed both here on the Isle of Man and internationally?
Okay, David's with us. We found David. Hi David, you're live with the Chamber of Commerce.
Hi Randy, hi Chamber. Could I ask a question regarding, are you still there anyway?
Yes, live and loud.
Lovely. Could I ask the Chamber then, just a simple question is, how are they reacting with high worth net individuals on the island? Or do you think, as like Alan Bell used to do years ago, he actually tasked one of the politicians to draw businesses to the Isle of Man that we needed?
Absolutely. You need a mix of helping local businesses to grow and attracting new businesses and as David rightly says, attracting high net worth individuals who have done a fantastic track record of investing here. And so, yes, and government does do that to some degree, working with the private sector. So it is a cornerstone of our economic success over the last 30, 40 years. And it's, again, how do we target the right people? So, for example, quite a few people have relocated here from the UK northwest, so we might not attract many people from the southeast of England. They might prefer the weather there, say, for example, but people from the northwest we found are very happy with the Isle of Man and the Isle of Man offer, and we've had much more success at attracting people from the northwest. So we've run more events there to try and highlight the potential benefits and the opportunities here, and those people, when they bring their family here, they of course bring their spending power and they invest locally in the economy. So yes, high net worth individuals relocating here is very much an important part of our economic plan.
What specifically did Alan Bell used to do, David?
Well, he used to task a politician that wasn't in the Council of Ministers, but what they used to do was drive it out there, is go to the northwest Liverpool roundabout. I remember years ago when they used to go to Liverpool City Council. Our direct contact with Liverpool and the Merseyside area is great. And I don't know why we don't do it anymore. I just wonder. The last question I was going to ask to the Chamber is, how many times have you met, they call them a Starship Enterprise now, well I do, the Enterprise Department for leads and support from yourselves?
Okay.
So we meet regularly with DFE.
Once a month?
No, we meet with them probably at least once a month with the Minister, and it has been, depending on the topics and depending on what is going on. So during periods such as the debate on the minimum wage over COVID, we're meeting with them as frequently as weekly. Right. We have an open dialogue with them. We have a great relationship with them to sit down and talk frankly and openly and honestly. And when coming back to your point on the connections with Liverpool City Council and the North Northwest. We work with the chambers there. We introduce our members. We have delegations going backwards and forwards. And again, we work with the government on things like the Memorandum of Understanding, which was signed between the Isle of Man government and Liverpool City Council. We had an event so the first event was 2025, signed in Liverpool. We had the reciprocal event in June this year at the Comus. We're looking at bringing those forward on a more frequent basis to strengthen those bonds, because we are aware that we have a lot in common with the Northwest. We have close relationship ties, and we have done historically, and it's facilitating those relationships and those partnerships to bring benefits to both sides of the Irish Sea.
Okay, thanks, David.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, mate. Bye.
Good to hear from you. Tom dropped a note in just to say, listening to your programme and hearing a lot about what Chamber is talking about, but what exactly are they asking government to do apart from listen? We can read that the global economy is under massive pressure, but can they give specific examples of what they've brought forward that hasn't been dealt with better, so I can understand what's going on?
If we give a couple of examples, so for example, the Electronic Transactions Act for the Isle of Man was passed in the year 2000, and electronic transactions have changed radically since then. We've been lobbying the department to update that legislation for the last 6 years, which would give us more certainty on the use of things like digital signatures and digital identity, which are critical to protecting people as they purchase things online. And we've been spending the last 6 years working with the department to update that legislation. It really shouldn't have to take that long. There's an organisation called Stripe, some people might have heard of. It's a financial services organisation. Right now, people can't use Stripe in the Isle of Man. We've been lobbying for several years now to say government needs to lobby Stripe such that they will accept account. Yes.
Years.
Yes. To accept Isle of Man residents. And we've seen several entrepreneurs who've relocated from the Isle of Man to the Northwest so they could run their business on Stripe, because it happens to support a certain type of online business.
What is government not understanding about this?
Well, I don't know how much influence they can have directly. I think some of it is focus, because I think, in fairness to government and the DfE, an awful lot has changed in our economy, and possibly at times they're trying to do too many things with too many people, and maybe sometimes we need together to be much more clear and focus on the things that will deliver us the biggest impact for our community, the biggest benefits for our community. I also think it's fair to say that the global economy has changed, and some of our private businesses haven't been as nimble as moving as we should have done. So it's not all about government. It's definitely not all about government. The global economy does not stand still for any business or any jurisdiction. And so we need to be more ambitious, and we need to be more prioritising economic change. So at times I think it's politicians and senior civil servants are under pressure to do many, many different things, and they just do what they think is the most important at any one time. But just unfortunately, economic growth hasn't felt like the most important thing for them for the last 10 years. And we would say that's got to change, because it's got to be the number one priority for the next 10 years.
A message in from 572 on WhatsApp just saying, Chris Corlett, why? So if you can answer on behalf of the government, please. Why is the GDP figure 2.5 years behind? What
they do is they use income tax returns from both individuals and businesses, and they wait until they have every single tax return and produce the very final accounts for the year, and then and only then publish the data. What happens in pretty much every functioning democracy in the world is you use estimates of figures based on samples and based on other data, like payroll data, like VAT data, and you come up with an estimate of economic growth. So we hear on the news headlines, UK GDP growth grew by X% this month, and we normally hear that within days of the end of the month. And we're saying we need to have something similar. We need to work with government, and we need to have data that's timely, that's accurate, and frankly that's trusted. I think one of the issues is people have said to us, business leaders have said to us, there are times when frankly we don't trust data from government. So what most democracies do is they have something called like an Office of National Statistics, which is one step removed from government. It can't be meddled with, if you will, by civil servants or politicians. They publish honest, accurate, timely data that we can all rely on, that gives us confidence that we know how the economy is performing and how public services are performing. We believe that's a critical enabler to helping us to grow again, that we get timely data from an honest, trusted source.
Well, with the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce, by the way, if you want more information or you want to find out more, their website is iomchamber.org.im. IOM Chamber, all one word, all lowercase, .org.im.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
Need quality Type 1 stone for your building or contracting job? Then contact Tells with no minimum order for collection or delivery. Call 677 137. Visit Tells Limited in Snugborough or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Bell-Dawn bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws, to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
Charity of the Week, brought to you by Kell Properties.
The Friends of the Villa Gaiety, or FOGS, raise vital funds to help restore and maintain the historic Villa Gaiety. FOGS supports specialist repairs, refurbishment and improvements for audience and performer experience. You can help by joining FOGS, making a donation or contributing when buying tickets. Find out more at fogs.im or call 484 600.
This advert is brought to you by Kell Properties.
It's time for a summer holiday of exhilarating exploration with the Silverdale Explorers Club. Join our hunt in Silverdale Glen until the 31st of August to win amazing weekly prizes of £50 cash and a giant garden toy. Grab your free Explorer passport and weekly challenge sheet from Silverdale Cafe and photograph the hidden items for a sticker to enter each week's prize draw. Collect all 5 weekly stickers for a chance to win the grand prize. The Silverdale Explorers Club with Silverdale Cafe. Don't miss it!
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Clare Watterson and Chris Corlett are here from the Chamber of Commerce. 850 messaged in just to say, hello, this is my first time voting. Candidates have been coming around knocking on doors and I'm a bit unsure about what to ask or what kinds of conversations to have with them. What does Chamber think we should be looking for in a candidate? Are there any particular questions you recommend asking me to help make an informed decision and make my vote count, says 850. Clare Watterson.
So, as Andy's just referred to, we have a website, and on that website we have a strategy of how we are approaching the election. One of the documents that we have released is a small, it's a very easy to digest number of questions of what you should be asking your candidate and what sort of how it applies to you, so that you gain a greater understanding of how the candidate on your doorstep is planning on acting when they come into position. So it's asking things like, do you agree that the Isle of Man's economy is going to be a top priority for the next administration? How will you approach the personal and business taxation to maintain the Isle of Man's competitiveness? There is a breakdown of these questions so that you can look at which ones you feel are important to you. You can gain an understanding of what your candidate is saying and, more importantly, how they are looking to fund the policies that they are bringing in. They're saying that they're going to solve housing, they're going to solve the health service, they're going to solve immigration. How are you going to do it? Where is the money coming from? The Isle of Man has one pot of money. Where are you taking the money from to fund what you are looking to do? And what is your understanding of how it works?
Okay, so if you go to it's iomchamber.org.im and look up those questions. This is from Kevin, who just said, a quick question for the Chamber. Does the Isle of Man Treasury get any tax or VAT receipts from online purchase from Manx online residents, from vendors in other countries or the UK, Chris Corlett?
Via the VAT agreement, yes. So, of course, we're in a customs union with the UK, and that VAT agreement, and which shares all customs and excise receipts with the UK. So, yes, based on a formula based on the size of our economy, the size of the UK economy, and we divide that, what they call a common purse, where all of the receipts are put in a common purse and then shared. So, in a word, yes.
Okay, here's a question for both of you. It's a $64,000 question there, and that is, so we've had e-gaming, we've had insurance, we've had banking. What is the next big thing?
Well, a couple of answers to that. One is there's still life left in the old dog yet. Financial and professional services is the absolute bedrock of our economy. We've got some fantastic people who understand international financial services and are providing services to clients, high net worth clients and businesses all over the world. So there's plenty of opportunity for growth in that broad industry.
And the shipping register is doing well as well.
Absolutely. So we have some lovely niches. So that's a lovely example of where we've brought shipping expertise, and so we're helping manage some of the super yachts of the richest people in the world. We've brought aircraft expertise. We're managing private jets. We're managing their property. We're managing their funds. We're managing their very homes. And we're doing that from the Isle of Man for people who may never set foot here. And that's generated thousands of jobs for the Isle of Man in corporate services, in the legal sector, in professional services, in the banks. And so that might not be apparent to everybody who walks up and down Strand Street. None of those things might ever, because they're never here, but they are absolutely generating jobs.
So our position as an international business centre is still has integrity and is still intact.
Absolutely. It's just we need to refocus at times. The world economy does not stand still, and we need to refocus and say, where are the growth areas, where are the growth opportunities, and how do we work together to deliver those? And it has to be back to what we said, the public-private partnership that we've done so well in the past that we need to just sharpen up and get better at doing again.
Okay, so Clare Watterson, we've got about a minute left. So what is your direct message now to candidates who are perhaps not thinking about the business sector, perhaps not thinking about private enterprise, just think that the public sector will always cope, that the civil service will always cope? What's your message?
I think this administration has its work cut out for it. It is going to be a hard job to take the economy from where it is now to where we need it to be to fund the level of infrastructure that the Isle of Man needs and expects. So what we are looking for coming in next month is national level politicians. So they need to be credible on an international stage. They need to be sitting and understanding the economy as it is now and a future strategy of where we need to get to and how to work through that. We need to be leaving the local politics to our local politicians. In our commissioners, we need to be empowering them to take those roles which are devolved to them, move forward with them, and to leave our national politicians to work on a national strategy to place the Isle of Man front and centre on an international stage so that we can look to support our businesses and grow them on an international level.
Okay, final word, Chris Corlett.
Just for the new incoming candidates and members, please come and engage with the business community. Please listen to us. And we really can, working together, help grow the economy and create opportunities for our people. I must impress upon them, this is the number one issue facing our community, is economic growth, and speed is of the essence. We don't have time for years and years and years of Tynwald committees and thinking about this. We need to be acting very quickly after the election to drive growth.
Okay, thanks for being with us, Chris Corlett, and Sonia Watterson from the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce. If you want more information, iomchamber.org.im will get you all the details. And if you've got any thoughts on the matter, by all means, call the answer phone on 682 631 or email manninline@manxradio.com, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, as it's an open line on Mannin Line tomorrow. Thanks to Howie on the phones today, and thank you for being involved in Mannin Line. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.